Hi guys, and welcome to another one of my nursing videos. Okay, so in today's video, what we will be discussing is, do nurses really eat their young? Yeah, I thought this would be an interesting one. So, if you're interested in knowing whether or not nurses really eat their young, then keep on watching. Okay, so I decided to get really comfortable for this video. um, and yeah. Okay, so I decided to get really comfortable for this video, and we're going to jump right into it. So, what are my thoughts on whether or not nurses eat their young? I'll say it this way. The answer can be in some cases, and it can be in not most cases. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it depends on the situation. I would never say that the answer to that question is yes. I would say that the answer to that question is it depends on one's perception. And a lot of times what I find with the nurses eating their young lingo or what have you is that it's mostly perception, and a lot of the perception is based on your relationship with the nurses that you encounter as a new graduate. What I will say is that, and this comes from experience, and not everyone will agree with this, but what I can say is based on my experience and what I went through. And did I ever make the statement? Yes, I did. Do I feel like the statement was valid looking back? No, I don't. So, that's what I mean. It's based on perception. A lot of times, this is what I have found. A lot of times when nurses are new graduates, and this I also can say when it comes to nurse practitioners as well, because I've worked with nurse practitioners that have been new nurse practitioners. So I'll say that when you come out as a new nurse, that you are book intelligent. Like, you are just like, you know what you've been taught based on the book. And your clinical skills may be a little more by the book too. So I think that as a new graduate, and doctors probably can say this, I think any profession, I believe, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, let me know if there's some other professionals down in the comments that don't agree with that, but I think for the most part, when you run across, if I can get my words out, when you run across new graduates into their profession, they are going to be a little more eager, a little more, everything has to be by the book, a little more critical of those that are already, working in their field. And so I think that just kind of comes with the territory. And so I think what happens is that as a new nurse, you come into the game and it's like, oh yes, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to get in here and show them what I know. And so a lot of times you're eager, and with your eagerness comes critique. And so and I won't even say critique, it comes the kind of know-it-all in a sense, because you just learned these things. They're fresh in your mind, and you remember exactly how to do these procedures, certain procedures. Now I'll say basic procedures for the most part. You like really are confident with doing those basic procedures, and you're doing them exactly how you were taught. So when you come out, you're sometimes a little overly eager to show that you are competent, but it comes off as know-it-all. I'm trying to think of the perfect word for this, but you come off as a little too, I don't even want to say aggressive, like, well, maybe passive aggressive. And so sometimes that tends to be the attitude that you give off, and so you're going to get pushback. And I think that's what nurses eating their young is. It's more of a pushback from that passive aggressive behavior to where you feel like you kind of know everything. And I'm not saying this to point fingers or anything, because like I said, I was that same nurse. So I think that that's kind of what it is. And then you're seeing things and you're feeling like, oh, they're not doing this right, or oh, they're not doing that right. Or you're trying to prove that, oh yeah, I know what that is. I know what that rhythm is on the cardiac monitor. Oh yeah, I know that you're only supposed to pull up this much dig for this for this patient, or what have you. You know, it's some of the things that are, oh, you know, you're fresh out of school, so some of these things are going to be fresh on your mind. Like your math should be on point when you come out of school. A lot of nurses that are on the floor may still have to, you know, write out the equation to come up with the correct dose, because they've not dealt with it in a while. And then there may be others that are dealing with this same dosing on a regular basis, so they've just come to know what it is. But you may feel like, well, you didn't do it, you didn't pull it, you didn't work the equation. Like, tell me how you came up with that dose. Sometimes, you know, you run into things like that. And so you just have to be mindful of that, because in the real world of nursing, a lot of the classroom things that you learn, that's not really how it's done once you reach the real world. And no one's doing anything wrong. It's just that you have to compensate for your environment once you get out there. And so I don't think that a lot, for the most part, that nurses eating their young is probably the correct statement. I think a lot of times it's nurses probably push you out there if you are someone that comes off as a know-it-all. Now, I'm not saying that in all cases. Sometimes you do. Now, I will definitely say there are always going to be bad apples in every bunch, and you guys know that. So there are going to be nurses that will leave you hanging, you know, but I think that's that way in any profession. It just depends on the personality. You're always going to run across some people that just don't care to teach new nurses, or are not going to teach you the right way, or are going to let you get out there and drown before they even bother to see that you need assistance. There is going to be nurses like that. But like I said, to me, there are people like that in every profession. But you just have to find that person that is not going to be that way. And for the most part, I think there's more people that are willing to help you versus non-willing to help you. I have ran into nurses that, just like I said, they'll leave you out there to hang, to, you know, they just leave you out there. They don't care. I've ran across that in my career, as a new nurse and as an experienced nurse. So that just happens, but that's those people. That's not everyone. For the most part, I find that as a new nurse, if you're out there and you're eager to learn, and you're taking the initiative to learn, and you're showing that you are competent. Now, I would say if you come out there and you're putting on a facade like you know more than what you know, then to me, yeah, you may find yourself in a bad situation. I would say when you come out as a new grad, humble yourself and allow your veteran nurses to guide you. As long as they're giving you the proper guidance and they're being supportive to you and treating you with respect, and, you know, trying to ensure that you get the best out of your preceptorship, I would say take advantage of that and go with that, because you don't want to be in a situation where you have someone that does not care and they're willing to put you in a situation to where you make mistakes, and you can't just look at your mistakes as just, oh, it's just a mistake, because your mistakes affect someone's life. So you can't. So I would say find someone that's definitely going to nurture you, and guide you in the right direction, because they are out there. Now, it's not, so basically, I guess the gist of it is, if you come out and you're not willing to accept the help, or that's really what it is. If you're not willing to accept the help, if you're not willing to accept the guidance, and you're just trying to be a know-it-all and show off what you learned in nursing school, you're gonna get pushback. So that's just that's my biggest, I would say, advice when it comes to avoiding that scenario of nurses eating their young. Because for the most part, what I've learned over the years is that most veteran or experienced nurses give you a more difficult time when you come off like you know everything just because you just graduated nursing school. And that goes for associate degree versus bachelor's degree nursing. That really goes for that, because I will tell you that there are some diploma nurses that I would put up against a bachelor's or a master's degree nurse at any day, because these are the nurses from back when that have grown with the profession. So just never, the main thing is that the young nurses have to understand that the veteran nurses have been there, have done that. You should take guidance from them. It's just like with your elders. And this is how I look at any profession. If you're coming out as a new graduate to your profession, respect those that have already been in the game. That's basically what it boils down to. It's just like young kids growing up today. If you seek your elders for advice, for guidance, you get further in life. It's the same concept. You know, when you come into a new profession, yes, you're all gung-ho, you're high-strung, you're ready to show what you know, but ultimately you have to let those ahead of you guide you, because they're there for a reason. You know, they didn't just land there. They had to build themselves to that point. So that's ultimately what I have to, my thoughts on that. Do nurses eat their young? I think nurses only eat their young if their young comes in acting like they already know everything. And that's my honest opinion. So yeah, so that's my advice to new nurses. Just go into it with respect for the veteran or experienced nurses that are trying to train you, because, you know, at some point the tables will turn, and I can say that from experience. I can remember the same nurses that trained me, you know, some of the things that they would say about new nurses and why they didn't want to train them and things like that. And then I see that now in my career as some of the same complaints I get, you know, that you a lot of times run across new nurses, and it's like, come on, you know, let me show you, let me guide you. You don't have to try to prove to me that you know what you're doing. I would hope you know what you're doing, because you went through nursing school and you were successful in completing it. So I would hope that you know what you're doing, but let me show you how it's done out here. And then, hey, you're free to go on and do your thing, you know. But that's what that's what life is about. You know, you learn from those that are ahead of you. You know, that's what it's about. So I think that kind of helps. You know, I hope that helps to explain I hope that explains and breaks down the nurses eating their young concept. Yeah, so I don't really think it's nurses are eating their young. I think it's just a matter of respect and yeah, just respect and being humble when you come in as a new nurse and learning from those who are there to teach you. So yeah, that's really what it is. And then, so I thought I'd give you a little story. And this is kind of like a funny story too, but I thought it was a pretty good story to give you guys. So as a new nurse, for me, I told you guys like my first job was in ICU. So I had veteran nurses that had been nurses. Like 2 of them were getting ready to retire, were like a few years from retirement, and one of them had been a nurse for like 20, 25 years, and she was from New York, and that was my preceptor. She was a tough lady from New York. So these were like the people that were on the unit with me that worked my shift. And then there was a younger nurse, you know, she and I were kind of like the newer ones. She had started before me, but we were there as the only, you know, the 2 younger nurses, I guess, on the floor. So, and one thing I can say was, I think both of us had respect for them, but I didn't realize how much respect I had for them until, so this is what happened. I had a patient that had an esophageal varices. So, for those of you that don't know, that pretty much means that at any moment, he could expire and bleed out from his oral cavity. So, well, really, he could bleed out from any cavities, but yes, the oral cavity was definitely going to be where the blood would come from, especially. So, he was my patient, and he also had hepatitis C. So, he had been declining, you know, over the, you know, few days that I had him. And so this particular day, you know, going on the day as usual, I knew that he was getting more critical, but I just didn't know how critical. So I'm going down the hall, and I happen to look to his room, and I see blood just spewing out of his mouth. And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm just like, I can't even remember if I yelled code or if I yelled help. I don't know what I said, guys, but I just like yelled for help. And they came to the, you know, they all started coming down the hall, and I'm going in, and I'm just like, what do I do? Because there's blood everywhere. I know he has hepatitis C, but I've got to code this man. So I go in, and I pull the alarm for the code, and by then, you know, the other nurses had gotten there, and they were like, calmly. And I'm probably like in a panic mode, like looking crazy, probably like a deer in headlights. I don't know, but I know because they could, you know, later hindsight, it was kind of like a comical, you know, as to how I reacted, because that's my first code, and there's blood everywhere. It's like a massacre. It's like a murder scene. It was really bad, and so I'm sitting here panicking because I'm like, I've got to do something, but what do I do because there's blood everywhere? And so the nurses come in. They're nice and calm. They're, you know, telling me, okay, go ahead, we're getting ready to start, we got to start, you know, bagging them, chest compressions, but go ahead and put your gown on. I'm sitting there like, because I'm thinking, do I just go over there and jump in? And she's like, get your gown on, get your booties on, you know, so we're getting all prepped first. And it wasn't like a slow process, but it was a calm process from the way they did it and the way they guided me. And then we started chest compressions. You know, the doctor gets there. We started intubation process, and we knew that he would not survive the code, but it was just the point that I knew at some point that if he coded on my shift that it was going to be bad, but I didn't realize how bad until it actually occurred. And one thing that I can say, guys, is I am so blessed and grateful that I had those experienced nurses there, because they made that situation so much more bearable for me, and I think that they laid the path for me as far as how to handle codes. And from that point on, every time we had codes, it was like, there was one nurse, and she was one of the ones that was, you know, a few years from retirement. and she was always like so calm. But she had pretty much been in neuro ICU or ICU like her entire career, and I had to just ask her one day. I was like, how are you so calm? Because I'm telling you, she would literally walk, but it wasn't like she was, walking in slow motion, like letting somebody pass away. She would walk, she would get everything, she's moving like she's moving, but she was calmly moving. And she told me, she said, all of that running around and, being anxious and that, she said, that doesn't do anything but make it worse for the patient. She said, remain calm, you can think better, you can, process what's going on, and you're able to better care for your patient. And from that moment, I admired her, but I also took that from her. And I'm like, because it made sense. Because I've seen codes where you've got younger nurses, more or in it less experienced nurses, and it's kind of chaotic, or even less experienced staff, and it's chaotic. And I'm not a chaotic person. I like things to be calm. Like, I don't like a bunch of chaos and stuff like that. So I knew that that was never going to be the way that I wanted to be. But when she taught me that as a new graduate, I think that was some of the best advice and some of the best guidance that I ever could have gotten, because even now I'm so calm at codes or situations where it could potentially lead to a code. I'm so much calmer in those situations, but it's because I keep in the back of my mind what she said. Like, you're not helping the patient when you're running around spastic and out of control. You can't even figure out what you're supposed to be doing at that point. Take your time. Ultimately, you don't control the outcome. So you have to do the best you can for this person. And if you can't get your thoughts together, then what you're ultimately doing is making it worse for them. And so I took her lead, and I appreciate her for that. To this day, I can still remember the nurses that were there for me when I first made it out of nursing school. And I will say, like, these were some of the best nurses that I've met in my career, because they taught me, they gave me a very strong foundation. And I've never taken anything from them, and I've always had respect for them. And that's why I can say that I don't believe that nurses eat their young, because for them, it was a respect thing. Give me my respect, and humble yourself and let me train you properly, and you'll go far. And for me, that's what I did, and it did take me far. As far as in my career, I have a lot of respect in my career. When I'm working, I have a lot of respect in the environments I work in because of how I handle myself. And I give that credit all to, I give the credit to myself, but I also give it to them because they got me to that point. So I do think that we definitely have to respect our more experienced veteran nurses and give them their due props for training up the inexperienced nurses, new nurses coming in. So I think you have to get that guidance from somewhere. And I think that that's ultimately what it is, that a lot of times if you don't show them the respect that they're worthy of, then a lot of times it becomes nurses are eating their young, when that's not what I think it's what it's intended to be. That was my story. The gentleman did not survive, but we knew that he would not if he, coded, and we knew it was kind of headed that way. So, yes, unfortunately, you do go through that as a nurse, but the way that we handled him and the way that we handled the code, I think, went very well, and I think it was that way because I had those veteran nurses there to guide me through the situation, because I know that I was a mess because I had no idea. I had never seen anything like that. You know, you go through nursing school, you hear what you're going to see, you learn what you could potentially see, but it's not ever the way it actually is. So yeah, you have to have those real experiences and the real guidance to get you through. You know, textbook, classroom, mannequins, no, it's nothing like the real deal. And that was the real deal. So, yeah, that's why I say, just, as a new nurse, come out, be proud that you made it, but don't be overly proud and overly confident, because you're still learning. Once you get through school, hey, that's just one part of it. You still have like another year or two of hands-on learning to complete. So until you get through that, humble yourself and take your training, and, take it and be respectful of those that are taking their time to train you, because training a new nurse is very difficult. I know, I've been there, done that. That is a difficult task. And when I was a supervisor, well, it was the unit coordinator, charge nurse, whatever, on a telemetry unit, I can remember having so many nurses that I would have to pair up with new grads, and a lot of them just didn't want to do it, or they would do it and then it's like, give me a break for, don't put any with me for a while, because it takes a toll on you. It really does. That's a hard task to have to train a new grad. So, just be humble and respectful of those who are trying to train you up. And if you find that the person that's with you is not giving you what you need, by all means, go to your charge nurse, go to your unit manager, whoever you need to go to, and just politely tell them, I don't think that we're a good match. Is it possible that I can be paired up with someone else? You can do that, and that's not a bad thing. That actually prevents you from feeling like, you're in that nurses eat their young process, because no one wants you to experience that. There's no experienced nurse that wants a new nurse to feel like that. So if you feel like you and your preceptor aren't meshing, then by all means, please go to your supervisor and let them know so they can pair you up with someone else. I've had to do that before. So that's not something that is out of the norm. So yeah, just take it easy when you get out there. Don't try to be in such a hurry to, be in charge and that type of thing. Take your time, learn the basics, learn the real life scenarios, and then, hey, you got the rest of your career to feel like, you the boss or whatever. So yeah, that's my advice to you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and yeah, I do them kind of sitting in my car, because I think it I can do them in the house. We'll do some in the house, but I think it just, makes it a little lively. So, anywho, I'm going to get ready to get off of here, but I hope you guys really enjoyed the video. Let me know if you have any suggestions for other nursing videos. I did want to do one on the pros and cons of travel nursing, so let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. I'll definitely put that one up. That may be my next video. But yeah, so anyway, you guys have a wonderful day and wonderful work week coming up, and get ready for the holiday. So yeah, but anyway, thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.